Hey, what's the deal, YouTube? It's your girl, Miss Honey. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It is your girl, Miss Honey, here with another review for you. As promised, this will be episode 2, season 4 of The Handmaid's Tale. It is actually, although I've always watched the series on Amazon Prime, it's the first time I'm reviewing it on my channel. I hope you enjoyed the first review. It was a little long because I wanted to give you some context in case you had not seen it from its inception, from season 1, right? So this review hopefully will be just a little bit shorter. And one of the reasons I think it will work perfectly with this series is because although there's it's an hour-long show and the scenes can be kind of intense, they don't need as much description. You know what I mean? Like, there are going to be times where a lot of description is necessary, but for the most part, we're just going to be talking about what happened, and giving that to you, and not as opposed to what I normally do, which is, set the scene, describe the scene, that type of thing. I think it stays so consistently drab. Like I said, it's very industrial. It's almost like early Poland. I mean, it's just cold. It's there's not a lot of vibrancy, greenery, that type of thing. It's a very muted show in terms of visuals, right? Except for the stark colors that each of the ladies, the groups of women in Gilead have to wear. Remember, the wives wear this bluish green color, and then the handmaids wear all red in a white habit. And they wear red all the way completely down, no blocking, nothing, just a solid blood red color. And then the Marthas wear a very drab series of taupes and really, really muted greens, ashen greens, and like burlap sack color, So, yeah, other than that, it's just not a lot, right? It's not a lot. So I think we should be able to go through our reviews for the most part in less than an hour. Okay, so now this episode was called Nightshade. And I was just wondering, when we were going to get to that point where we were going to... June was going to come out and be, quintessentially June, which is a fighter. And this episode sort of started that engine. And then I think episode 3, which I'll be dropping tomorrow, is going to, fire it up, what I'm saying? Hit the fire, hit the gas a little bit. She on simmer right now. This episode is just June on simmer, right? Because June is a fighter. All right. So first we're going to talk about what happened in Canada. We know that June got 86 children and like 9 or 10 adults out, whether they were Marthas or handmaids or whatever. And so we get to see Luke, who is June's actual husband, who was able to escape to Canada, and they took June and their daughter, right, Hannah. And Hannah is still living with the family in Gilead, which is one of the reasons why June, although she gave that baby that was born of while she was a handmaid, she had that baby go back too. She wasn't leaving without Hannah. That's her firstborn daughter by Luke. Well, Luke and Moira, who is June and Luke's best friend, and also a lesbian woman, the same gender loving woman, and the black woman. Her and Luke are the only 2 black people we see so far. They are having a fundraiser in Canada, trying to raise money so that they can get these kids placed. Now, some of the kids went with extended family members. So let's say their mom and dad is still trapped in Gilead, or their mom is still trapped in Gilead, and the male parent is deceased or can't be found or whatever. Maybe he's indentured there too. And their sisters and brothers, extended family, that type of thing, would take those kids in Canada. Okay. And then some, if the husband got out and the wife had to stay, or vice versa, those kids go to that parent, if they could locate that parent. And then some kids just have to be placed, and that's a struggle, because a lot of people there, although they frown on what's going on in Gilead, is just like when they brought the refugees to Georgia. A church took them in, and then the local Walmart gave them jobs and that type of thing. It's kind of very similar to that, in that these kids are like refugees now. And although people look at it and they say, that's a shame what's going on down there in Gilead, very few people are forthright with trying to take a child. Even though some of those who would take a child, they got children, they don't want that child to affect their children, so they are rejecting, fostering these kids. And so they're doing a fundraiser to raise money for that, and they use Rita. Rita was the Martha at the Waterfords, if I'm not mistaken, and she was one of the Marthas that was able to get out with the 86 kids. And so they have her kind of, doing her testimony as to how bad it was there. And then she references June, because June essentially is like the martyr. She is this, she's a martyr to, a hero to them. And then she is this, this rebel, or what's the word I'm looking for? This troublemaker, this renegade in Gilead, because she's busting up the system, baby, taking the kids that they worked so hard to get, and so she's testifying to that, and right away we can see that Moira has some feelings. If Moira is overdoing it, she's being very jumpy and jerky and shaky and clapping. She's trying too hard. Like, it's something about her energy. Later on, when they're at the office and she's talking to Offglen is the woman that June handed her baby over to, and closed them doors and let them go on, and she went back for Hannah Banana. Okay, she's also the woman that had it out for Aunt Lydia, baby. She meant to kill Aunt Lydia. She had every intention on killing Aunt Lydia, baby. And it was Alfred at the time, a.k.a. June, that stopped her from killing Aunt Lydia. Not because she wanted to spare Aunt Lydia, because she realized that Offglen had snapped in a way, right? They both were in Commander Lawrence's house. All right, and we're going to talk about Commander Lawrence. But anyway, that was the last commander's house they both were stationed in as handmaids. Okay, so Moira is feeling a type of way, right? She is, she feels obligated to June, because June was her best friend, and she knows how great June is, and she knows what tenacity June has. I think a little bit, she might be a little bit jealous. Jealous is a slippery thing, right? It moves in and out of your emotions and your feelings, and before you know it, you'll be thinking you justified in something when all along it's just jealousy, right? I'm just saying, I think she's a little bit jealous because June did stay there, or was trapped there. June found a way to fight out of her situation, and she's getting accolades for it. She doesn't, it's not like it's this glamorous thing. We know that June is one breath away from getting killed. Any moment it can happen. It took a lot of fortitude. It took a lot of fortitude and focus to close the door on that truck and send them off on their way, and go back into the fire. Okay. And Moira also feels, I think, guilt because she did get out early on, and June didn't. Right? Still, all the same, June is getting, even in the midst of being a captive, June is getting some. I'm just saying, she doesn't say that. She says that she feels obligated, and she says that she also feels guilty because she got out and June didn't. But I still think that there's a little bit of jealousy there. You guys tell me what you think if you saw the episode. Also, she's under a lot of pressure. You know, she's got a girlfriend. She wants to go off and just hang out with a girlfriend, but it's just one thing after another. They got all these kids. They went from kind of being stagnant, stalemate, trying to figure out how to get their families and kids and stuff out of Gilead, to they got all of these people from Gilead there, and they got to figure it out. And so she just wants to go sit somewhere and snuggle up with her girlfriend and chill. But instead, she's got to go check on the families and check on the kids and check on the people who said they would adopt. And she checks on this one kid and finds out that he hates it where he is with his aunt. He doesn't want to be there. He wants to go back to his room. He misses his Martha. He misses his family. Like, they just children. They don't understand. You know, they don't get it that it, you know, saving a child's life is probably one of the hardest things, because, you know, it's like trying to save a drowning person. If you're not careful, they'll drown you. They're just not capable of you know, for whatever reason, understanding it. That takes time, and you know, he has to be definitely, you know, retrained, like reoriented or something. I don't know. Anyway, he don't want to be there, and so after Moira has this outburst where she's really mad and she's really angry with June, and it's just like her to, you know, to bust in somewhere on her own agenda and doesn't think about the fallout of it all. And Off Glenn all along can kind of sympathize with Moira. At the same time, she needs Moira to hold it together. Now, so she is being very, very sympathetic to Moira's feelings. I will not be surprised if the two of them don't end up together, because they're working very closely together. They have a lot in common, including both having been handmaids in Gilead. And so they both know the torture there. They both know June, and you know, they both have decided that this is what they're going to do. They're going to try to help as much as they can with getting people out of Gilead. So that is that side of it. Then we have the Waterfords, who are incarcerated in Canada, right? And they're both being tried for child sex predator crimes, right? And kidnapping and all of these things. And we see where Serena Joy, Mrs. Waterford, she goes and she's getting a physical, and she's humiliated in this physical, and she's also ashamed. Now, maybe these doctors or nurses or whatever know who she is, or maybe this is just the cold way that they do things, but they're asking her questions, and it's making her uncomfortable. It's making her uncomfortable because they are being kind of cold and dry about the situation, about her situation, but also it's making her uncomfortable because it's like, you know, it's like, what about this? What about this? And what about this? Like, it is in her face. Like, she can smell the stench of the bull crap that she came out of. It is all over you, my dear. She's got a finger, which I had completely forgot about, when she kind of spoke out a little bit against the eye, against the commander board, you know, all the men folk. They punished her. Like, you have to ask permission to speak. And when she did get permission to speak, she was supposed to speak about one thing, and she branched it out to something else. All because really, that kind of was that kind of was June's fault too, because June was helping her when Commander Waterford went to jail in Gilead. June kind of was helping her build a case and get, no, that's not what it was. He was hurt in a bombing. And so he couldn't do his job. And so to keep they standing, Serena had to do the job, and June was helping her like as her admin assistant. It's a whole thing. It's 3 seasons back, but go ahead. And it was June that kind of lit that fire in her. Anyway, so she went on to this next agenda, and they punished her by cutting the tip of her finger off for speaking out of turn, for speaking about something she shouldn't have been speaking about as a female. Right? Females don't do that in Gilead, right? They are second class, third class citizen, right? Fourth, fifth, sixth, 10th class citizen, right? And but somehow she feels, and she's got this place where even after she did this, Fred, her husband, whipped her, took a board and punished her by I mean, I would say spanking, but it was, was a whipping. Basically, this, paddle type situation. And so she's having to describe these injuries and the things that happened to her, and she's feeling this shame about it. And she doesn't feel like any of this is abuse. Like, she hasn't reconciled that with herself. She feels like she was a mistress, the commander's wife in Gilead. That is some measure of upper echelon, but she that's the thing. She doesn't associate. You have to disassociate. In order for you to have, allow your husband to ritualistically, under government command, rape a woman while you hold her down and then hold her legs up so that the fertilization can take place, you have to disconnect yourself, and you have to tell yourself, oh, you're different, you're above that, right? And that's what she's done. Now faced with these injuries, and as the lady's asking her, have you ever had an STD? Have you ever had unprotected sex? And she was like, yeah, I have, because her husband, Commander Fred, Commander Waterford, would frequent brothels. She called them brothels, but they're not brothels. They're sex trafficking rings. Yeah. In Gilead. But they're supposed to be uber religious. Under his eye. All of this happened under his eye. Under his eye, okay, and under a male eye, right? Who acting like they God. Okay, so anywho, she goes to see, she talks to the lawyer and learns the reason why she had this physical is because their defense is going to be that she was an abused woman. That all of these things that she was forced to do was because she was being abused. And she was like, I'm not abused. I am not abused. I am not an abused woman. But you act like you don't understand. See, she's not thinking of it as abuse. She can't reconcile that with herself. She's saying that it was more like a punishment because she talked out of turn. It's not per se abuse. Like, it's not abuse. Like, I'm not with people who get abused. Like, it's not no domestic violence. I'm a commander's wife, right? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. You were abused. You were abused mentally, and you were abused physically. Okay, you were mutilated, had your finger cut off. Your husband didn't blink. Okay. All of this. No, ma'am, you're abused. Yeah. It's weird how the mind slices and dices something and compartmentalizes it. I'm sure added to that is the trauma of it all, but it's weird how your mind will compartmentalize something and you make sound reason of what's happening in a way that's favorable as opposed to calling it what it is. And I think that's why people who are naturally outspoken about things that are glaring to them are frowned upon, black sheep, blackballed, blacklisted, because they just say what it is. And people are inherently, the majority of humans are inherently uncomfortable with the graphic truth of things being out there. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Serena goes over to see Fred. I mean, they're incarcerated, but it's weird. She goes over and spends some time with Fred, and in this moment, she's trying to reconcile everything that's going on with her, you know, these feelings, and talking with him, and maybe trying to get him to sort of confirm that it was punishment and not abuse. Maybe she's trying to get that from him through some type of emotion, some type of reaction that says, I love you with all my heart. But Fred is not hearing it. Okay, Fred is fully and completely sold out to the situation. See, first of all, Fred ain't got no uterus, so Fred don't have the same amount of emotion and passion. He's a more logical, linear thinker, and he's really thinking logically more about himself. He feels like that is the logical choice, and I'm sure he knows through his own attorneys and whatnot that she is the one that facilitated getting him turned in. And while she can look over the fact that he allowed her finger to be severed, and he beat her and paddled her, okay, whooped her, okay, ostracized her, and cheated on her mercilessly, okay, all while trying to act superior over her, she's able to forgive that because it in her mind it is for her greater good. She was always better when there was the two of them together, right? But Fred is not here, and Fred's able to sever that tie. Fred's able to move on past that. Fred don't have no love in his heart for Serena that would mediate all that they have been through. And he lets her know that. It is a shock. So then when she goes back to her attorney and or a representative, and she wants to tell him, you know, that she wants to cooperate, you know, and do this abuse defense, and she just wants to see her child, and she wants to know when she can see her. And I wanted, you know, and she's making these demands, you know, like she's Mrs. Waterford back in Gilead. No, ma'am, you're in Canada and you're actually incarcerated. Okay, he lets her know, he stops her dead in her tracks and lets her know you're pregnant. Okay, now she ain't pregnant by Fred. Trust me. No. She's not pregnant by Fred. She pregnant by that dude she was messing with there in Canada. The one I think that talked her into turning in Fred. You know, I think that's who she pregnant by, if I'm not mistaken. I can't wait to see My Twisted Life of Poetry. She does the reviews for Handmaid's Tale, and she just remembers all the names and everything. Like she's always reviewed the show on her channel. My Twisted Life of Poetry and TV, I think, is the name of her channel. Anyway, so you guys check her out, but she's not going to do the second episode until this weekend, but I can't wait to see what she thinks about this second episode. Anywho, once she learned that she pregnant, baby, I mean, her world, it just seemed like it had to have been Fred. It can't be the fact that she can't produce a child. It is the fact that Fred can't produce it. It has to be that, because that was the whole reason they got a sex slave in the first place, a birth slave, I should say, in the first place, right? And you're able to get pregnant like that as soon as you come to Canada and sleep with somebody. It must be Fred. It can't be you, sis. And I think in this moment she realized you best to start thinking for yourself, Serena. You best to start thinking of yourself. Okay? Your husband cutting ties with you is the best thing that could ever happen to you. Sometimes what you want might make you cry, and what you need might pass you by. If you let this opportunity go to side with these people in Canada against Fred and plead your own defense out for your own good, it's going to pass you by, sis, and you're going to be on your own. You're going to be on your own. And you're going to have a baby and be incarcerated and can't even go and see your own baby. Wouldn't that be fitting? Wouldn't that be fitting? Okay, let's move on. We're going to talk about what's going on at the Keys compound. They, like I said, June had already seen last week that the girls had gotten comfortable. The other handmaids that escaped with her had gotten comfortable. And they were dancing with some of the security guards and each other's and frolicking and having a good time. Like, this is where they was going to stay. But at the same time, they got to deal with Mrs. Keys. Now, Mrs. Keys, like I said, got to be like 14, maybe 15 years old. And she's been married off by her family. Her husband, not only is her husband, but her rapist, and under the guise of getting her pregnant and procreating, which is like the pinnacle thing to do in Gilead, he allowed other commanders to come in and rape her as well. And so she's broken. And this is the thing, once you break a thing. And when I was looking at it, I was thinking about, when it went to commercial, I was like, when you say broken, it's almost like saying, oh, it's not good enough anymore. But when I say broken, it's kind of like, even though when you break something, it's always broken. You get what I mean? Like, it's always broken. The scars of what's there is gonna always be there. I think about, I got a new car, Altima, many years ago, and I had a car accident in it. Someone hit my side door in a parking lot, and I got it replaced, and they gave me this depreciation value check. And they did a beautiful job on the door, and the speaker didn't work, and that the back speakers didn't work the same anymore, but I didn't haggle over that. And I got a $500 appreciation check, which is cool. But then when I go and get a new car a few years later, and I'm going to just trade this car in, they can, when they go up under that chassis, they can see that it's been repaired, that that there has been damage to this car. And it's nothing you can do about that. It looks really great on the outside, but you can't hide that. You can't hide that. And so that's what I mean when I say broken. Mrs. Keys is broken in a way that I don't know, although we can kind of see the scars of it a little bit through her anger and the way she treated the girls when they first got there, the ladies when they first got there. You can just tell it's something just not right with her. And all the ladies know it. And so when a government official visits, they want to see Commander Keys, but Commander Keys is not himself. Okay, remember, I associated it, like I thought he had Alzheimer's or dementia or something, but that's not what's going on with him. What's going on with him is Nightshade, the name of this episode. Well, it's also an herbaceous plant, otherwise known as belladonna, which given in small doses can produce like this euphoric feel, this out of body kind of feel. And this pain, it helps with pain relief, and it given in the right doses, very small doses, right? But given in large doses or the wrong way, it is an effective poison. Very, very effective poison. Anywho, June learns because she is moving around when the government official happens and letting everybody know what they need to do. Just settle down, just calm down, just, it's going to be fine. It's okay. It's not all of Gilead. It's not the full eyes head of Gilead government come like because there would be SWAT everywhere, it would be trucks and vans, like they would have came down on them hard, right? She's letting them know that. And June is their leader. It's by default. Like, all of them are scared and frightened and shaken, and just she's got to tell them all what to do. I think her name is Leanne, which is the little girl that she's not a little girl. Yeah, up here she kind of is. That's the one that was going kill the baby before she gave the baby over to the family she was living with, and they took her eye as punishment. And so her mind has snapped. And so June kind of take care of her a little bit because, she can be unpredictable. She's one of the ones that could get them all turned up and turned in. And so June keeps a good eye on her, and she says, do me a favor, don't run. I don't want you to run because it's nothing happening. It's okay. She takes her to the window. She lets her see, and then she goes to see what Mrs. Keys is talking about with this government official that has come over, and Mr. Keys, right? And she sees where she's giving him a glass of water, and she's like, he's not himself. He really just needs to rest right now. Maybe try back later. And he was like, okay, well, we'll come back later. And she was like, yeah, that would be great if you could just come back later. And so when the guy leaves and June sees it all, she goes and she asks, can I wash that glass for you? And Mrs. Keys pulled that glass back. And June was like, uh-huh. Later on, she learns that she is poisoning him. She started giving him the belladonna early on, Nightshade, early on, just so that he wouldn't be as mean and as surly to her. Okay. And then more and more after he started letting these other people come in and rape her, she started, just keeping him completely incapacitated to the point where he's no longer inviting them over because he is, you know what I'm saying? He in there, but he can't get out. You know what I'm saying? He's screaming, but no one hears him, right? Oh, I said, Mrs. Keys. At the same time, it's clever for a girl of her age. She said her Martha taught her. And so June gets word from her contact, Ellen, I think is her name. She gets a word from her contact that's helping them in this whole Mayday revolution escape type plan. And when she finds out about it, all the ladies was like, okay, Mayday's gonna come for us. They're like all like little frightened bunnies, the other handmaids. Mayday's gonna come for us. She was like, no, Mayday is not a person, a savior, an army that's gonna come down and save us. No, Mayday is each and every one of us, right? It's so I was so frustrated. I was so frustrated with how weak the other handmaids act. They all just wait really, really patiently, eagerly on June to make a decision. Tell them what to do. Tell them, all of this stuff. But then I had to realize that handmaids basically, are forced to procreate, for these high-ranking men and their infertile wives, in this stomach-churning sexual ceremony and ritualized rape. Okay? All right? And, once they're ripped from their children and their husbands, they aren't groomed. I think grooming is a different thing. You guys tell me if you feel like I'm wrong. They aren't groomed to be handmaids, but instead they're trained to be handmaid. They're trained to be future rape victims. Dozens of women sit in classrooms and lectures where the curriculum is a government sanctioned / sponsored sexual slavery. Okay? These girls have been broken as well. June has just got something inside of her that will not go quietly into that sweet night. I'm sure a lot of them have children before they came in there. I don't think it's just the fact that she is a mother. I think that there is something inside of her that says, if you're going to kill me, kill me. But I'm going to fight. I'm going to find a way to fight and get out of it. This is not right what they're doing. And every chance I get, bit by bit, to dismantle this mother ducker, I'm gonna do it. And all of the ladies admire that. I had to put my disdain for weakness down. I had this disdain for weakness because I'm a person that can rally myself, right? But I don't know if I had been indoctrinated to that level to be weak and submissive, if I would still feel this same way. I don't know. I would like to think that I would be more like June, but who knows? Who knows, right? And June is more than paid. She is more than paid for her fighting. More than paid for her fighting, okay? And she's going to pay that much more. But let's get into it. So she goes over to see Ellen, and when she goes over, she pulls up to this big, beautiful white house, and it's literally like the White House. I mean, there's pools and tennis courts, and I mean, it's just very elaborate. It's really, I don't even want to say brothel, because I think that some women that work in legalized brothels like the Bunny Ranch, they consider that their job. They don't consider it a problem at all. That's what they do, right? And so I don't even want to say brothel, because I don't think any of these ladies have said, yeah, I'm going. They can't check out and go home to their own home and decide they're not going to work the next day. Like, this is where they live. They have a house mother there, someone who's like Aunt Lydia, who works for the commanders, and she manages all the girls and keeps them in rotation and keeps them ready for the get-togethers. And then all the commanders essentially come there to this location, same place that Fred took June when he was trying to, get her warmed up for regular sex, trying to court her, trying to show her off. This is my handmaid, and I'm going to dress her up and put her on a beautiful dress and all this type of thing. Same place. All these girls are there, and they're there at the pleasure. They serve at the pleasure of the commanders. It's drinking, it's drugs, it's like, again, I won't even say prostitution. It's sex trafficking. These girls are all being trafficked. They're being held against their will. One of the ladies who is her Ellen, who is her connect in the revolution, has her shown in. Or Martha sneaks her in. They go into the greenhouse, and she talks to her. And the first thing she says is, "I thought you would be taller." This again goes back to this whole mystique about June. June is the martyr. June is the heroine here. She is supposed to be everyone's savior from the beast that is the eye. This patriarchal society that's been set forth by these men, the commanders, right? So she's supposed to be the savior. I thought you'd be taller. So you're the handmaid that killed Commander Wilson. How'd you get the knife? Or where'd you get the knife? That stab. That's what she said. And she said, stabbed him with a knife. She said, no, it was an ink pen. That was a good episode. And we have an episode kind of like that. It wasn't as brutal, but we kind of have an episode like that in this episode in season 4. And so this just speaks to how people view June as this savior. And when June said it was with an ink pen, and she tells her, this is where your new location is going to be. We need a new location. This is where it's going to be. It's 13 miles west. There's going to be a quilt on the line. If it's not a quilt on the line, then, don't go over there. And it's just 13 miles from the Keys house. I was like, why wouldn't they just go house to house and house to house until they found what they was looking for? I don't know. Anyway. And so, she toys with the idea of getting out herself, Ellen does, and she can't get out because, this is what it is. She can't leave. There's no reason for them to leave the house. They're indentured slaves, sex slaves there, basically. And, every night they got to get gussied up and go out there, and depending on who shows up and the parties that the commander of the house has set forth, in this pseudo brothel, which is really sex trafficking den of trafficked women, can't just go out. You just can't leave. She can get word out because she's sending word out by the chauffeurs and things like that. And so she says, the next few days are going to be critical. It'll be time for you to move because it'll be the last party for a while, because they're going to be moving somewhere else, to try to figure out how they can stop this revolution, how they can get their kids back. They think that these are their children. They can get their children back from Canada. They're thinking about going to war with Canada, but they're not sure how to go about it. So they're going to meet as a coalition, and it's going to be in another location. So that'll be the last party there for a while. And so because of this lull, and June feels like we should attack them now, since they're going to be dispersed and all of that. And she was like, no, no, we can't just do that. No, we can't just do that. You just need to lay low. But June got her own ideas, and she's gathering information from everywhere. So that's when she goes back to the Keys compound and finds out that she knows about the poison. She wants Mrs. Keys to teach her how to make the poison. And so that's what she does. And she takes that poison and she goes back to Ellen's house. And this is the night of the party, and she just blends in like she's a Martha. And even though Ellen does not want to, she's afraid, just like the handmaids back at the Keys compound that June is helping. June is here to help her. She's got a big old bottle of poison, right? And all she needs is the girls, the ones that are being trafficked, to disperse it. She puts it in the liquor. But first she got to talk Ellen into going through with this. Because even though she's had dreams of running, and even though she's helping people in the revolution, she is a safe, she's a contact, a spy, and she's able to move information to have actual freedom, to actually get out. I don't think she is ready for that. She's not sure that she's ready for that. And so June is like, that's fine. I understand. You know what I'm saying? I'll pour it down the sink. And she's like, no, don't pour it down the sink. I may never get another chance like this again. And so they put it in the liquor. And then they go around the room. And in the housemaid's tea. In the house mom's tea, right? And they go down and dancing with the men. And boy, June done poured it all up. She done filled all the liquor bottles up and gave them instructions. She running them too, right? She supervising them too. And she done got that tea together. And while we see them dancing with the men and giving them shots, eat shots of the liquor, baby, shots of the liquor, we see June walk out. Just like that night with Commander Wilson, baby. It was slow motion and it was some good music playing in the background. That's how this scene was too. That music was playing and she was walking in slow motion, baby, like like Superman, baby. When his cape be whipping in the wind, when he be standing up there and his cape be whipping in the wind. She took that coat and threw that coat on over her shoulders, baby. When she walked out there with a job well done, okay, a well executed plan. She gets out of there, boy. She is so satisfied with herself. Gets in that van with the security guard and they head on back. And when they head on back, they approach the house. All of the lights are on. Every light in every window is on. And June says something's not right. They both recognize it at the same time, but June says something not right. And when she says something not right, the guy's like, oh, okay. She said, stop. And they get out. She say, you don't get out. You leave. He said, I'm not leaving you. I was like, June, she really do think she bulletproof. I just think she's got such focus. She doesn't realize, just like she insisted on being the one, even though she had a gunshot wound, to walk down that mile and a half or half a mile down to that farmhouse to see where the lamp was. She couldn't send the rest of them. You're in that place where you feel like you're not doing this self-preservation thing, and it's bugging me because I feel like they both should have backed up and left. They would have chased them down, I guess, but still, they both get out and walk in front of the headlights of the truck and walk up, and it's like whew, you hear whew, and poof, his head explodes. Oh, And June is standing there. This man has just been killed in front of her. His blood is on her face. And she sees the gun and she goes down for the gun and she's grappling for the gun. And it's just the headlights of the truck showing. And then she sees all these red beams, dots, all over her. They got her. They got her on the snipers. That wherever that red dot is where the bullet goes, from what I understand. And she covered in red dots. I'm talking about back, front, every which kind of way. Then she see a man walk out the house. It's Nick. Nick is her new baby's father. He was the chauffeur at the Waterfords. That Mrs. Waterford, after she noticed that they used to have a lot of little secret conversations together, she insisted that she get pregnant by Nick, sleep with Nick, and get pregnant by Nick in order to give the Waterfords a baby. This is what Serena did. Okay. This is Nick. Now, Nick is also sidling up to Commander Lawrence. Commander Lawrence is in prison too in Gilead because, like I said, that was the last house that June and Off Glen stayed at. The same house that Aunt Lydia got her arse handed to her in. Okay. It's Commander Lawrence's wife who was mentally unstable. And so Nick is now, I won't say he a high-ranking official, but he's one of their head people in their he's not a commander yet. He's kind of like in charge of their forces, special forces group, that type of thing. And so he done sidled up to Commander Lawrence, and Commander Lawrence thinks for sure that he's about to be killed, but Nick is giving him signals. Again, I am still confused if Nick is with us or if Nick is against us. Nick is moving in and around Gilead, but he is continually doing little things to kind of help out. And I don't know if he's doing that because June is the mother of his child. June has been able to smuggle his baby daughter out of there and send that baby to Canada. If he's just doing it to protect June, he wouldn't protect any of the other handmaids. Like, is he overall protecting all of them, or are they all protected because of his feelings for June? But she reached down to grab the gun. She saw all them red dots, and he leaned down and he said, "I'm trying to save your life." And then he gives her a little nudge on the shoulder. She let that gun go. She going into Gilead's prison. And when she get into Gilead's prison, it ain't going to be nothing nice. That's episode 3. It's going to be the beginning of that. That is going to be the beginning of this unbelievable torture session with June. I'm not going to be able to watch the whole thing, but I will find out everything that happened during them torture sessions, and we going to talk about it. I survived them. I probably couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But anyway, that is it for Handmaid's Tale, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Did you see the episode? Tell me what you think. Put it down below. And until next time, honeybees, mwah, 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 I'll holla.